Oh, did I forget to mention that I changed the reservation time? You didn't show up, so I boarded the train without you. I could hear a woman's laughter in the background, sitting next to my husband, Harry, on the other end of the phone. How could you do that? Come back right now, I demanded, my voice trembling with disbelief. It's your fault for being so lazy that you got left behind, he replied casually. You can deal with the rest on your own. Besides, I canceled your ticket. It was too expensive to waste. That's not what I meant, I tried to explain, but he cut me off. We're going through a tunnel now, so I'm hanging up. You should just give up and head home. Without any hesitation, Harry ended the call. No, this isn't what I meant at all. If things keep going like this, we're headed for disaster. I've been married to Harry for 5 years. We tied the knot after our son Tom was born, and now Tom is 6. In the beginning, the three of us were happy together, but over time, Harry grew distant. He stopped paying attention to Tom, despite his earlier promises to protect us. I'll take care of you and Tom, Harry had once vowed, but now I wonder if those words were just a way to manipulate me. Harry claims he's too busy with work, ignoring our son completely. When I urge him to be more involved, he dismisses me entirely. Recently, his words have turned cold and cruel. The other day, he even mentioned divorce in front of Tom. I'm busy with work. You're just a housewife, right? My house, my rules. If you don't like it, why don't you just divorce me? I'll agree to it any time. After all, for a woman like you, a divorce would be the end. You can't survive without my money, so don't even think about talking back to me. I wanted to argue, but as a housewife, I felt powerless. If I fought back, it could really lead to a divorce. I've thought about leaving Harry many times before, but the idea of our son's future always held me back. No matter how much society claims to be more accepting of single parents, the reality is often different. They're still judged and looked down upon. What's the right thing to do? These thoughts weighed on me every day, leaving me physically and mentally exhausted. One day, as I returned home after dropping Tom off at daycare, I ran into my neighbor Sarah. Are you okay, Janet? You don't look well. Is your son in kindergarten? I can't believe you're this tired when they take care of him from morning till evening. Have you been overworking yourself? She asked, her tone laced with condescension. If you had the money and attention I do, your life would be so much more fun. But then again, if I were as clueless as you, I'd have a hard time too. I feel sorry for you. Sarah's husband works away from home, but from what I've heard, he makes a lot of money. She's always dressed in luxurious brand-name clothes and flaunts expensive accessories. But despite all that, she lacks elegance, and whenever I see her, she's constantly bragging about herself, her husband, and her son. She may not be a bad person, but I've never really liked her. Everyone always seems to have something to say, but I just wish she could understand my feelings, even a little. Normally, I would have shrugged off her comments, but that day I was exhausted. I couldn't help but vent about my husband. No, I'm just a housewife, so I'm not tired from work, I admitted, feeling drained. But my husband is always complaining about how busy he is and shows no interest in our son. Lately, he's been so irritated that he even talks about divorce in front of our child. I feel sorry for Tom. The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted sharing my frustrations. When I looked at Sarah, her expression had hardened. You're a full-time housewife, and you dare to criticize your husband, the one who provides for your family. I feel sorry for him. Her voice dripped with disdain. I've never complained like that. My husband works hard, and as a wife, it's only natural that you should take good care of your children. This is why women like you struggle. She took the opportunity to look down on me and boast about what a good wife she was compared to me. I knew she would react this way. Maybe it's best not to get too involved with her. I quickly wrapped up the conversation with a polite greeting and hurried home. But that night, to my surprise, Sarah suddenly showed up at my door. I hadn't invited her, but she invited herself in. I'd like to get to know you better, Janet, she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. How about having dinner with me tonight? I love cooking, but my husband is incredibly picky, so I thought I'd visit you now that we're friends and learn some new recipes. Isn't it great that I'm motivated? I'll eat anything, so could you whip something up for us? Without waiting for an invitation, Sarah and her child barged into our home, clearly intending to stay for dinner. My husband, always the friendly one, welcomed them in without a second thought, but it was me who ended up serving them. Sarah's children ran wild, doing whatever they please, while she and Harry chatted endlessly, with Sarah proudly boasting about her kids. I was seething inside. We were finally seated at the table, ready to eat, when Sarah brought up our conversation from lunch. Harry, you're really doing your best, you know. You should make sure to remind your wife of that. She turned to me, a smug smile on her face. I told her that since you work so hard, it's only natural that she should take good care of the child. I'm perfect at it for our family. I work hard every day to take care of the house and the kids for my husband. I could never complain about that. Harry looked at me, his eyes narrowing in disbelief. Janet, did you really complain to her about this? I can't believe you. We're only getting by because of what I earn. I swallowed my frustration and forced myself to agree. Yes, you're right. Just as I thought the conversation might end there, Sarah suddenly suggested, let's go on a trip to treat your husband. The kids will be graduating soon. And it's perfect timing, don't you think? My husband's working away from home, so my kids are lonely. It'll be more fun with more people. If you're okay with it, I'd love to go with you. I expected Harry to shut down the idea, but to my surprise, he seemed pleased. Sarah had been standing up for him all evening, and now even the kids, pure and innocent, were caught up in the excitement. Everyone except me was in the mood for a trip. Leave all the preparations to Janet, Harry suggested. She's a stay-at-home mom, so she's got all the time in the world for that. I could barely contain my frustration. That's impossible, I finally said. With your salary, we can't afford to pay for a trip for 5 people. Besides, it's a one-parent situation. You're blaming your own son. I can't believe you. Harry's expression darkened. You don't appreciate me enough, do you? You're an absolute disgrace. Sarah, sensing the tension, chimed in. That's right, Janet. You don't appreciate enough at all. Do you even know your own worth? Do you really think you're some great person? Her words cut deep, and I realized just how isolated I had become. I swallowed the words that were on the tip of my tongue, and after apologizing to both of them, reluctantly agreed to plan the trip. Your neighbor is struggling without her husband, so you better handle all the work, Harry said dismissively. I couldn't believe it. Who do you think has been raising our son all on her own? I wanted to shout, but I bit my tongue, trying to suppress my growing frustration. As I began organizing the hotels and planning every detail, it became clear that the trip they wanted would cost several $1,000s. If I spent that kind of money, my savings would be completely wiped out. I've always been the one providing for us, I told Harry. You should at least cover the costs this time. If you don't have it, then go into debt or borrow from your parents, he replied coldly. But remember, if you borrow money, you better be ready to pay it back over a lifetime. No matter what I said, Harry wasn't going to listen. I gave up trying to argue and focused on finding a way to make the trip happen. After some trial and error, using point cards and coupons, I finally managed to plan something within budget. I secured a nice hotel, and Sarah was very pleased with the arrangements. See how great my ideas are, she said to Harry, beaming. I thought of every detail to make sure you could have a wonderful getaway. Even though I had done all the work, Sarah took full credit, speaking as if she had planned everything herself. My husband, of course, was thrilled with her presentation. How useless you are, Janet, he said, a note of contempt in his voice. Sarah is so talented. Shame on you for making me feel like this. I felt the sting of his words, the weight of blame that always seemed to fall on me. This was never the life I had imagined, but still, I couldn't bring myself to consider divorce, not for Tom's sake. I kept telling myself to stay calm as the day of the trip arrived. With Harry and Tom by my side, we headed to the bus station. Oh yay, the bus. Tom's eyes sparkled with excitement. It had been so long since we traveled anywhere. I had the tickets ready, and we waited at the station for Sarah and her kids to arrive. While we were waiting, Tom needed to use the restroom, so I took him quickly, thinking nothing of it. But when we returned, Harry was gone, leaving only our luggage behind. Panic began to set in. Where did he go? And where was Sarah? Time passed, and the bus was about to depart, but Harry was still nowhere to be found. I tried calling him, but there was no answer. With no other options, I decided to call Sarah. Oh, I changed the bus time, Sarah said nonchalantly. I did tell you. We got on already. I guess your husband didn't mention it either. He said he wanted to relax and ride on the premium limousine bus, so I switched it. I asked her to pass the phone to Harry, and when my husband finally picked up, his voice was filled with irritation. Honestly, you and Tom just get in the way, he snapped. I'm going to enjoy this trip with Sarah, who actually understands me. I tried to keep my voice steady. Please just wait for us. We'll be there soon. But he cut me off. That's not what I mean. And with that, he hung up, leaving me stunned and heartbroken. I turned to Tom, trying to mask my despair. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I guess we won't be able to go on the trip after all. Tom looked up at me with those innocent eyes, full of understanding. It's okay, Mommy. As long as you're here, it'll be okay. His kindness nearly brought me to tears. I forced a smile and said, let's go home today. I'll take you somewhere better next time, I promised Tom as we headed back home. As we approached our house, I noticed a man in a suit standing at Sarah's door. He looked serious, and I couldn't help but wonder who he was and what he wanted with Sarah. But the last thing I wanted was to get tangled up in her business, so I pretended not to notice him and kept walking. Just as I was about to pass by, the man turned to me and started speaking. I hurried away, unsure of what he wanted, but the encounter left me uneasy. 3 days later, Harry called, his voice filled with urgency. What happened to the hotel payment? Get me $3,000 right now. $3,000? There was no way I could come up with that kind of money. Why didn't you settle the bill in advance? I asked, my frustration boiling over. You're so stupid, he snapped. Come here right now. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You asked me to leave, and now you want me to come. I had enough of his nonsense. I got us that hotel through my father's contacts. If I don't go there, they'll charge the regular rate, $3,000. When Harry had told me not to join them on the trip, I had reached out to my father and informed the hotel of the situation. I wasn't going to let them take advantage of me. If you don't pay up now, we're getting a divorce, Harry threatened. Oh really? That's fantastic, I replied, unable to hide the smile spreading across my face. I wanted a divorce anyway. Harry seemed taken aback. Really? Yes, really. It's perfect timing. I'm sure Sarah will be much happier with you. Thanks for doing me a favor. I could practically hear Sarah chiming in, full of smug satisfaction. Unlike some idiot wife, Sarah really understands me. I couldn't help but laugh. Their self-importance was absurd. Well, you have no choice but to pay the hotel fee yourself. Harry fell silent. Of course he did. His salary was only $700, despite his pretenses of working at a major company. We managed to cover the rent where we live now with passive income from the property I bought when I was still single. Yet Harry only contributed about $300 a month, acting as if that was enough to cover all our food expenses. Honey, you shouldn't lie, I said, my voice tinged with frustration. Have you been lying? You have, haven't you? I can't stay with a man who doesn't make enough money. This means my husband is way better. I said nothing more and handed the phone to the man standing beside me. I'm divorcing you, Janet. You've been cheating on me, haven't you? Why are you there, honey? I thought you were away working. Harry's voice faltered with confusion and panic. To my surprise, the man in the suit who had spoken to me 3 days ago was Sarah's husband, Jack. 3 days earlier, when I returned home after being left behind at the bus stop, Jack had approached me, having just returned from work himself. Upon hearing the situation, Jack had apologized repeatedly and revealed that Harry and Sarah were having an affair. He explained that he had come home unexpectedly to gather evidence of their betrayal. I asked my father to contact the hotel and arrange for pictures to be taken of Sarah and Harry together during their stay. The images show them sharing light kisses, with Sarah clinging to Harry's arm and acting overly affectionate. Seeing Harry so happy and confident with her was sickening. Luckily, I already had the divorce papers, as Harry had previously threatened to divorce me and had thrown the signed papers at me in anger. As soon as I confirmed the affair, I decided to file the papers and finalize the divorce. It was a decision I made after carefully consulting with my child and thinking it through. And then, finally, I was free from Harry. I was told that Sarah's kids weren't at the hotel, so I quickly went searching for them and discovered they had been left at Sarah's parents' house. When Jack arrived to pick them up, he showed Sarah's parents the evidence of the affair and the photographic proof. Overwhelmed with guilt, they apologized to Jack with tears in their eyes. As we awaited a response from Harry and Sarah, who had betrayed both Jack and me, Sarah tried to justify her actions with absurd excuses. She claimed that she pretended to have an affair with Harry to provoke a reaction from me, hoping it would make me change my attitude. Her excuses were pathetic, and it was clear she had orchestrated everything deliberately, leaving her kids behind while planning to enjoy the affair with Harry funded by my money. Jack was deeply apologetic and offered to cover the cost of the trip from his savings, pleading for forgiveness. I couldn't simply accept his apology, though. It wasn't that easy. Harry, meanwhile, was threatened with legal action by the hotel staff for failing to settle the bill. His savings were insufficient, and he had to beg Sarah's parents for help. Eventually, they covered the hotel expenses, allowing him to return home safely. That same day, I hired an attorney to formalize the divorce, seek alimony, request custody of my son, and demand child support. I told Harry, who argued that Tom still needed a father, that he had been neglecting Tom and leaving him behind. It was clear to me that it was not in Tom's best interest to be with him. Jack also managed to secure his divorce without issues. Sarah, who resisted leaving Jack, found herself in a dire situation. She tried to stay in the house but was forced to move out when she couldn't afford the rent. Jack demanded alimony, and Sarah's financial situation deteriorated. She was evicted after staying too long and incurred a penalty fee. She eventually moved back in with her parents, where they were less than pleased with her situation. As for me, I felt a sense of relief and contentment. I could finally live peacefully with my son. I even invited Jack and his kids to stay at the hotel, and seeing the kids' smiling faces made me genuinely happy. I wish this peaceful life could last forever.